Hi, everybody. This is Nick on 90s, and for the second episode, I'm going to talk about Keys to Tulsa. Right. So, Keys to Tulsa came out in 1997, directed by Leslie Greif. It's also written by Harley Payton, who also did the screenplay for Less Than Zero and Three Musketeers, and I'll get back to the importance of that as later on. It stars James Spader, who actually dyed his hair for this movie. It's black. It's oily black, which is really weird. And then Eric Stoltz, Michael Rooker, and then you have Deborah Kara Kruger. This came out, I think, before the game.
So, yeah.
Yeah, almost. She's from Germany, and then she came to L.A., and she did 2 movies in 1997, and then, right. Yeah. Right. Especially if you're in L.A., you might as well just do some movies. Rounding out the cast is James Colburn, Mary Tyler Moore, and then Cameron Diaz makes an appearance in this movie for a couple of minutes. So you have a great ensemble cast for this movie. Based on the book by Brian Farrell Berkeley, the book came out in 1989, and with cinematography by the great French cinematographer Robert Fraze, who won an Academy Award for The Lover. His other notable works is Ronin. Like Ronin? I do. The Notebook, An Enemy of the Gate, and Hotel Rwanda. The plot follows affluent, privileged, and in his 20s, Richter Bordeaux, played by Eric Stoltz, who is a film reviewer for the local newspaper. A job, no doubt, his mom got him. Who doesn't really care about what he's doing with life. He plays the character as just kind of, not really careless, but just doesn't really care. Now, you kind of sell that he's a slacker and loser. I just think he's just more just a kind of, he's whatever the wind kind of catches you kind of a person. Lives on a broken farmhouse and sides hustles selling drugs. James Spader plays Ronnie Stover, who actually is a hard-nosed drug dealer who has a blackmailing scheme involved in the movie. So what you have in this movie is a lot of a jumble. You have a lot of subplots mixed in and doesn't really get flushed out. When you have too much going on at once and you don't have really more clarity, I think that's where the movie kind of jumbles because you don't really have a coherency in this throughout the movie. I think the book has so much into it and makes it far more enticing. I think the other thing about I read the book, it's funny because Brian writes these characters with such disdain for them that he has almost too much disdain for them as well, and then each character has disdain for themselves. So I think he could come back to Tulsa after writing this book. But I think the overall point of why this movie doesn't get celebrated as much is because the book came out in 1989, and the movie got made in 1997, and it's kind of lost its flavor for what it's supposed to be. I think if you're doing a story that's prevalent for 1989 and you take almost 10 years to make the movie, you kind of lose kind of what happens for the story, aesthetically. What I'm going to cite is like Rules for Attraction, a story that was written in Bret Easton Ellis wrote it in, I think, 1985, and the movie comes out in 2007. You just kind of get lost of what the whole you're trying to convey about 1985, especially for the movie makes 20 years later. So I think that's the problem with this is the movie came out far too late of what Brian's talking about of Keys to Tulsa in 1989, when you have a lot of characters still in the 80s. Overall, I still bought it. I still enjoy it. But I think one of the things that's missing is when I critique movies, there's nothing really memorable to take away, and there's nothing really unforgettable other than Michael Rooker with his shirt off. But the only thing I really gravitate toward is this, how much casual smoking is in this movie. There is so much casual smoking. I swear they have must have cigarettes in drawers on the set to pull out. Every scene almost starts with somebody starting a cigarette. It's kind of funny. Deborah Kara Kruger is playing this Southern sweet Tennessee Williams kind of a role where she's a Southerner and femme fatale, and it just feels awkward. And I think that's kind of what I enjoy about the movie. It's just so flatly awkward, and Eric Stoltz is perfect for that. I think he's a perfect cast for this person, this fumbling around in life with no real direction, and gets caught in a whirlwind of this underground world. But I think what it kind of loses, it so much wants to be a Tarantino kind of a movie, and it should not have been. But also, check it out.
So, Nick, my question for you today,
all right, he's got a question.
As I was watching the film, was I had this striking suspicion that James Spader is doing his best Robert Downey Jr. impression, and I thought from the poster that was Robert Downey Jr. So tell me, do you think the film would work better if we recast it with Robert Downey Jr. in the James Spader role and with Michael J. Fox in the Eric Stoltz role? Go.
I think it'd be an interesting take, right? Because Eric Stoltz did, Back to the Future. Right. It'd be an interesting version of that. I think, right, there's a good content to it. Right. We're supposed to, in this movie, figure out, get back at this oil tycoon's son that murdered a black stripper. And that's kind of a pivotal point in the movie that only gets talked about in, like, the third act. So, yeah, I think the problem with it is too much want to be a Tarantino movie, and it should not have been. So, if you agree with me, check it out. Also, hit a like and subscribe. Enjoy the content we have. If you've seen Keys of Tulsa, what do you think about it as well?